This is an introduction to the Mercedes Sensotronic brake system that was introduced in the early 2000s. It first showed up in the new SL Roadster, and then later it was installed in 2003 in the US models. It was installed in the W211 chassis. I'm not going to go through all the intricacies of the system. I'm not going to discuss some of the problems that you might have with the system. This is just going to be a basic overview for someone who isn't even familiar with the system or is considering purchasing a Mercedes that has one, and we'll find, at least they'll know what they're going to be looking at when they open the hood, because it can look a little different. And you're going, well, first off, you're looking down here and you do see a brake fluid reservoir that's typical, and there is a master cylinder down here, but there's no brake booster. Okay, no round brake booster. So the system is not controlled like the old systems with a brake booster. It's controlled electronically through a computer. So let's move over now and take a close look at the SBC unit, which is the heart of this system. This is the SBC system. You'll actually see SBC printed right on the front of it. So if you open your hood or a hood of a Mercedes and see this unit, then you know it's going to have the Sensotronic brake system. It's rather a complex unit. You have a large electrical plug coming in right here. Here's an electric motor, and just below the electric motor is a chamber for hydraulic fluid. And this whole unit is controlled electrically through the computer. And once again, I won't get into theory in this particular video, but this is heavily dependent upon 12-volt power. Note here it's shock mounted, and it provides some extra boost to your brakes in various driving situations. But there's one thing, if you do find your car has this or you're considering buying one that does, there's one very important thing that you need to check. Here's something I want you to ponder when thinking about this SBC system. Since it's electrically controlled, let's say you're going down the road and your voltage regulator or alternator fails, and you're driving along and suddenly your battery drains down to nothing. What's going to happen to your brakes? Yeah, that's right. There's a safety consideration here, and I think the engineers knew this even during the initial development phase. So I'm going to ask the question for those of you who are not familiar with the system: what would be the answer? What would be the solution to providing safety for this electrically controlled brake system if the battery in the trunk should go dead? Okay, let's think a bit. Yeah, all right. They're going to need a second battery. That's right. A second battery, an auxiliary battery, or in some cases it's just called the SBC battery. And a lot of people that own these cars, I'm convinced, don't even know there's a second battery there unless they've read their owner's manual cover to cover. They may not be aware of this battery, and they may not be aware that it needs attention. It's located right under this box here, and so you can't see it. But it does need attention, and it will need replacement over a number of years. And of course, if the battery fails, there will be a red warning that will come up on the instrument panel, and you'll wonder, well, what that is. Okay, read the owner's manual, and you'll find out that it's probably that backup or SBC battery. So I want to show you, we're going to take a close look at this one, and I'll show you how to access it and how to inspect it. Well, this is the location of the main battery in a lot of cars, and if you look here, it says battery in trunk. So that's for the unknowing that in the W211 chassis you're going to find the main battery in the trunk, okay? This is the box for the cabin air filter, and this gets neglected on these cars, and it should be changed once a year. I've seen these things in there. If you watch some of my other videos, man, it's where they've been in there, 5, 6, 7 years, to where they're restricting airflow into the cabin through the climate control system. So, look at your cabin air filter on a yearly basis. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow you to also look at the backup or SBC battery in the car. So it's just, you know, you just take this one plastic nut off and then lift up on the front edge of this cover and you can pull it right out like that. Okay, and there's the cabin air filter. This cabin air filter has been obviously recently replaced. And we'll set that aside, and the backup battery is right there. It looks like a little motorcycle battery. In fact, some motorcycle batteries will actually fit in here, but this is a high quality AGM, non-flooded battery. And most of the time these will last 4 to 5 years. Some people have reported them to last longer, but let's take a close look at this battery and see if it is exhibiting any problems or whether it might need replacement. All right, I'm looking at this negative terminal here, and there's a little bit of corrosion. Let's look at the positive one. Oh my, that's what I don't like to see. Look at that corrosion forming under the cable clamp. So that needs to be attended to. I think it's probably best we'll just pull this battery out and clean these terminals completely. When you're removing the battery, you always want to remove the negative first. And what they've done here is they've, I like it because I was just going to say be careful you don't drop this bolt down inside, but it has a little clamp that keeps the bolt onto the top of the cable. Okay. There's a little nut that's down in that battery post, and I might have a problem here with that thing being stripped. No, it's coming. Okay, there she comes. Look at that. You can see it's got quite a long bolt there, and the nut is down in this little post. Okay, with the negative removed, I'll go after the positive. Look at the corrosion coming out of there. Wow. This is why, this is a really good example. I can't think of a better example of why you want to keep your eyes on your car on a yearly basis. And it confirms the reason why you want to change the cabin filter once a year, just to get a look at this backup battery, because that corrosion is very bad, and I think eventually you would lose contact with that positive cable. Now to get the battery out, it just has one large nut on this clamp in the front. And we spin this nut off with a large washer. Okay, now we can lift the clamp up like that and over, pull these cables out of the way. Now let's lift this battery out, and we'll do some cleaning on the post and terminals, and we'll also do a bench test on the amount of current in the battery to see how old the battery is. All right, let's pull this plastic cover off the positive post of the battery. Wow, look at that. Look at the severity of the corrosion there. It was making contact on the top, but that's a negative right there. Granted, I can clean this up with a mixture of baking soda and water and other types of battery cleaner, get this all cleaned up. But there's a couple other issues. I started wiping the dirt off the top, and I go, what? Look at that right there. 03-2004. This is the original battery in the car. Can you believe that? 10 years old, and this battery is still working. Now that has something to say about the quality of whoever made this battery. Now, the other thing is I'm not too happy about how the top of the case is crushing down right there. See that? That's from the clamping. So we're looking at a battery. Let's check the voltage. If you pull your cabin air filter you should check the voltage on the battery if you have a little voltmeter. There's other ways to test it, but this will give you a basic idea if the battery is deteriorating. If you check it as it sat overnight, or this one's been sitting here for a couple days, and it's showing 12.2, 12 points or 11 point something voltage, it's probably time to replace it. If it's over 12.5, there's probably still a little more life in it. So let's test this one. You can see the meter there. All right, black to negative, red to positive. Okay, I'm showing 12.63 volts. So that means the battery's not totally worn out yet. But I'll tell you what, I don't like the looks of this battery. I don't like the age, I don't like the corrosion, I don't like the case deformation. And because this battery is so important to your safety, I am going to replace it. And we'll get that terminals cleaned up in the car and then show you the new batteries installed in the E500. I cleaned both of the cable ends with a battery cleaner, and we've installed the new Bosch battery here. And notice I've used a battery protectant spray. This is a sealer which will minimize corrosion in the future, and securely tightened both these bolts on the cables. But come on, when you're tightening this nut down for the clamp, please do not use excessive force. You saw in the previous scene, whoever installed it, looks like somebody at the factory, maybe they used an air tool and tighten this clamp down. But when you're tightening this clamp down, just bring it down snug. Like that. You don't even need to put excessive force on this clamp. It's just going to deform the case, and then we can put these electrical cover plates on over the nuts. Particularly, you want to make sure something is on the positive. If the battery doesn't have these, then you want to find something to cover that particular one up so there's no chance you could ever have a short underneath the cabin air filter box. Okay, we'll put the cabin air filter box on, and this battery should be good for at least another 5 years, but I will be looking at it on a yearly basis. In conclusion, I think this video will serve two purposes. One, it will introduce you to the basic SBC system in these older Mercedes Benz. And number two, it's going to reaffirm the importance of visual inspection and preventative maintenance. I mean, that has to be a classic example of why you need to be doing the maintenance, at least some of the maintenance on your own car. You need to be getting your head down in the engine compartment on a regular basis, because you care more than anybody else. This was a Star Mark warranted car. It's been out of warranty for a few years, but I'm seeing things on this car that should have been attended to at the dealer, and they weren't. So word to the wise, think preventative maintenance, keep your eyes open, and learn to take care of your own car.